Hi everyone! So in today's video, we are going to break down or talk about the 10 common poses or 10 asana shapes that you see in a class. Now if you're looking to start your own practice, start your home practice, or are new to yoga, then this is the class for you. So if you're new to yoga or you're thinking about starting yoga, starting a home practice, then this video will talk about the efforts needed in the different shapes or in the different poses. So it won't be very foreign to you when you step into your first class. So this is mountain pose or Tadasana. So how I would normally teach it is to just find that comfortable stance for you. Now in some traditions, they'd ask you to bring the big toes together. Okay? But if that feels narrow for you, then bring your feet hip-width apart. Okay? And then maybe for some, maybe it might even be slightly wider for you to feel balanced. Okay. And then what you want in Tadasana is grounding both feet, maybe shifting forward and back a couple of times. Okay. As you maybe press all the 10 toes down. Okay. And then we want the fronts of our thighs or the quads engaged. So tendencies to lift the kneecaps up. Okay. So you'll feel that. Okay. And then just find that nice broad chest. Okay. Maybe just enough to press the shoulders back. And then either palms face forward or hands by the sides. And then standing tall. Okay. And then in holding this shape or this pose, your belly will already start to engage. Okay. So think of as if you're wearing a jacket and then you're zipping up. So you want to zip up, okay, so from the hips towards the ribs to find that bracing at the belly. Okay. So if I show you from the side, okay, just notice how you would normally stand, okay? So oftentimes the feet would be turned out or maybe there might be a bit of slouching. So again, come back to the feet, okay? Either hip-width apart, toes together, okay? And then standing tall, okay? So you'd hear a lot of teachers use standing tall, okay? And then just looking forward, okay? Hold that zipper, maybe gently pressing the shoulders back. And then from here, maybe just hold this a few breaths. And then if you want to add movement, you can reach the arms up. Okay. Now, as you reach your arms up, essentially, you want everything else still engaged. Okay. As you reach the arms up, and then hands down. I'll show from the front. Okay. If this is not accessible for you to bring the arms out to the sides and up, know that you can always modify and maybe reach the arms forward and up instead. And then notice how your body shifts, your body changes when you reach the arms up and down. So that's Tadasana or mountain pose. So the next one is plank. Okay. So normally this is inserted in a class to help us build strength. Okay. So we're carrying our own body weight. So in plank, your hands are shoulder width apart. Okay. Wrists underneath the shoulders. And then imagine you're trying to hold a ball or a block between your thighs. Okay? So normally what we see is either like a half plank, half down dog, or the hips dumping down. So you want that pushing away effort. Maybe the thighs press up, and then hold here for a couple of breaths. Then know that you can still work the same efforts of plank when you bring the knees down, and then tuck the toes, and then shift it to a floating tabletop. So the efforts are still the same, okay? Whether you're here or here. And then holding plank. So the next one is Chaturanga or the yoga push-up. So essentially, you're still holding the same efforts in plank. You're pushing away from the mat. And then this time, you'll shift forward. So there might be more weight at the wrists. Keep pressing down at the fingertips. And then you can just bend any amount, maybe 10%, maybe 50%, or maybe lower all the way down. Okay? So we'll go through that again. Okay. If you want to practice reaching forward a lot, okay, a variation to that is from tabletop, so bring the knees down. Okay. keep that pushing away effort. Reach far forward as much as you can, pressing away from the mat, so upper back will round as much as it can, and then you'll slowly bend, maybe hover, or lower all the way down. Okay, so there are different variations to hold or to execute Chaturanga. So one more time, from plank. Okay. And then normally, Chaturanga is also done after plank. So press away, okay, holding that block between the thighs, reaching the chest forward, and then as you bend, keep that pushing away effort. And then lower all the way down. So the next one is a back bend. So this is called Cobra. From here, you bring your thumbs essentially by the sides of your ribs. You press on the palms, press down on the thumbs, press down on the feet, and then as you inhale, you'll roll the chest up away from the floor. Now usually people would bring weight on the hands. Now if you want a little bit more effort for your back, maybe let the hands hover. Okay? As if you're holding a ball between the elbows. Okay, press here. And then a variation to this back bend is when you start to float up, push away from the floor, let your thighs float, upward facing dog. Okay. Your belly is still engaged, chest is pressing forward, and then we'll slowly lower down. Okay, so one more time. Okay. Now, Cobra would maybe come up after a Chaturanga or in a Vinyasa class. Okay. But also this is a good back bend to help strengthen those muscles. So again, bring your chin or maybe forehead down on the mat. Okay? Press the toes down. Now, if this feels a bit compressed for your lower back, maybe bring the feet slightly wider than the hips and then see how that feels for you. Okay? When you're ready, you'll just roll the chest up for Cobra. Belly is bracing, holding that ball between the between the elbows. Maybe staying here, or maybe pushing up to upward facing dog. And then we'll slowly release. So the next one is downward facing dog. I think this is also one of the most common shapes or poses you'll see in a class. Okay. So essentially you're in this inverted V shape. So what you want is pressing away from the floor. Okay. And then if hamstrings are a little bit tight, okay, or on the tight side, you have the option in down dog to bend the knees. Okay. So it's not absolutely necessary to press your heels down. If it will compromise the length in the spine, then I would suggest to keep the knees bent. And then maybe working on slowly pressing the thighs back as the heels press down. Okay. So what you also want in downward facing dog is this pushing away action as your hips or the butt reaches back. And then breathing here. Notice if there's a tendency for the ribs to drop down towards the floor. Okay, it will take you to a back bend. So you still want a bit of that zipper engaged. Okay, so ribs are hugging in as you lengthen the spine back. And then from here, you can lower down the knees to a tabletop position. So this is a variation to downward facing dog if it will be too much on your wrists. Okay? So to set that up again, spread the fingers wide as you tuck the toes, and then keep that pressing as you float the knees, lift the hips up, and then press back. Okay, breathing here. And then holding this for a few cycles of breath. See how this feels. So the next one is chair pose or Utkatasana. Okay. So you would also want your feet about hip width apart. Maybe some can do this a little bit closer. Okay. And then what you want is you'll start to bend the knees. Okay. So normally people will bring their knees in front. Okay. But what you want in chair pose is to actually shift your butt back. And as a guide, you should still be able to see your toes. So if you can't see your toes, move the hips or the butt back. Then you can be in a high chair or a low chair. Okay. Hug that zipper in. Okay. And then imagine you're holding that ball between the thighs. It will really work the quads a lot. and then we'll reach the arms over the head. Okay. Now, if this feels tight for your upper back in this shape, you can always bring the hands slightly in front and then still find that effort of reaching. Okay. So keeping that zipper, reaching the arms forward and up, and then you can play around with this pose, maybe bend a little bit more as you slowly come up, but not necessarily straightening out the legs. Maybe bending, coming up, maybe bending, and then coming up, and then come all the way up. So in tree pose, we are going to balance on one leg. Okay. So you go ahead, choose whatever leg you want to play around with. So in my case, I'll balance on my left. You'll bend your right knee, and then options for your balancing pose or for this balancing pose. Either land your foot, the heel on the ankle, on the shin, or on the inner thigh. Okay. So whichever option you're choosing, as long as you feel that the legs are pressing against each other. Okay. Tendency for some is to sort of hang out. This is a bit exaggerated. So what you want is the standing hip, this hip, to hug in so you find that length. Okay. And then the bent knee. Okay. So there's effort at the bent knee of opening out to the side, but not necessarily turning the hips. So in this shape, you want the hips to essentially be facing forward and then find the movement from that hip crease. Still bracing, okay. And then your hands, they can stay on the hips, maybe hands in front of the heart, or maybe you can reach your hands over the head. Okay. So different variations to the hands when you're holding tree pose, but a lot of the focus and effort is on the balancing leg or the standing leg. Okay. Can you keep the effort of the standing hip pressing in as maybe the arms reach up towards the ceiling? And then make sure that you do this on your other side. Okay, so how about let's try that. We'll balance on your right leg or on my right leg. Okay, so root that foot down as you bend. Okay, and then just notice how much you can open that bent knee and then land it to where it's accessible for you. Okay, if balance is something you're working on, maybe consider at the first option, and then maybe work making your way up towards the inner thigh. Okay. So same efforts, hug those legs in, find the zipper, and then hands can be where it's accessible for you. So next is Warrior 2 or Virabhadrasana 2. Okay. So we'll do this on the left side. So I'll step my left leg back. Okay. And then you'll bend the right knee. Okay. So there are some traditions that teach it heel to heel, heel to arch. Okay. But what I would suggest, especially if this is your first time doing Warrior 2, find the stance where you feel comfortable. Okay, so it might be hip width apart or maybe even wider for some, so that you feel grounded and stable as you bend through that right knee. Okay. So as a guide, you bend as much as you can as long as it stops on top of the heel. If you are bending and the knee moves in front, then consider moving the foot forward a little bit more. Okay. Now your hips are open at this point. Okay. Notice if your butt is sticking out. Okay. So you want that hugging in action, bracing at the belly, and then the arms will just bring it out to a T. Okay. And then when you're in Warrior 2, notice if there's a tendency for the traps to kick in a lot. Okay. Can you reach through the fingers so that the sides of your neck are long? Okay. And then maybe focus to where it's accessible for your neck. And then you can even, maybe bend just enough, maybe all the way to 90. Up to you when you hold Warrior 2. And then we'll just take it on the other side for balance. So just step my left foot forward. I'll go the other direction so you see. Okay. So grounding the feet as you step the right foot back. Again, find that stable stance, okay, as you bend any amount at that left knee. And then from here, hold the brace and then bring the arms out to a T. Okay. Or you can imagine you're carrying books, okay, on your hands so that your upper arms will activate. And then can you keep that same activation and then you can flip the palms back down. Okay, so can you keep that same effort of activating the upper arm? So imagine you're trying to flex your biceps, okay, and then find that reach. And then hold here for a couple of breaths. Know that you can always adjust, maybe slowly come out of it as you rebend that front knee. Okay? And then see how that feels for you. Your back leg is active as well. It's pressing down on the mat. So another common pose that you see in most likely in a beginner's class or actually in any flow class is bridge pose. So in bridge pose, how you set it up, you'll be on your back, okay? And then you'll bend your knees. When you bend your knees, bring your feet hip width apart, okay? Tendency for some is to bring the feet out wide, okay? So bring the feet hip width apart and then point your toes forward, okay? So it would be similar position for when you would hold mountain pose or Tadasana with feet hip width apart, okay? And then your palms, press it by the side. Now what you want is for the lift, okay, press down on the feet and the hands as you press the hips up towards the ceiling. Okay. So what we want to look out for is if the tendency of your knees is to open out towards the sides. So what you want is to hug that ball or the block between the legs as you use your hips, the feet, and even the shoulders to press up a little bit higher. So the butt cheeks will engage a lot, but you would still want your core muscles bracing as you press the hips towards the ceiling. Now you have the option to just keep the hands here, okay, especially if this is your first bridge pose. Okay? So this is also a back bend. Or if it's accessible for some, you can interlace the fingers underneath, and then you can even shimmy the shoulders towards each other. And then use your arms to press down and then maybe lift a bit higher. And then just keep looking up towards the ceiling. And then hold here for a couple of breaths. And then to come out of it, if your hands are interlaced, you'll slowly release and then take your time as you lower down the hips. So the final shape, and I would also guess maybe favorite of most is Shavasana or the resting shape. So in Shavasana, you're pretty much lying down on the mat, but you still want yourself to be as comfortable as you can get, especially if this is the last pose of the class. So if you have props available nearby, one thing that I also like for my Shavasana is to actually bring a bolster or a pillow underneath my knees, okay? And then just adding that slight lift at the knees, just helping the hips relax a little bit more as you let the feet fall off to the sides. Okay. And then when you hold this shape, you can even cover your eyes if you like, and then just find that sensation of releasing with no effort, and then just maybe holding a peaceful and quiet Shavasana. So I hope that was very helpful for you. So if you are interested in learning more, make sure to check out the different breaking down yoga videos that I have on my channel. Or if you are already looking at trying maybe that first class, you can check out any of the flow classes that I have. So I would like to thank you for watching. This is Every Yoga by Jo and Endaya, sharing everyday yoga for everybody.